Bailey. I'm a junior at Centennial, and you're listening to the West Ada Podcast.
So we run anywhere from 5 to 6 groups per semester, and those could be friendship skills, social skills. We have one that's very popular, and it is executive functioning. So it is organization. These binders walk by and they're ready to explode, and I'm just like, give that to me. Let me organize it.
Talk about a soft skill that you need, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You might have to come back and teach that again at like 25 when their brains form.
I know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest edition of the West Ada Podcast. And I tell you, as parents, we always talk about how we're parents. I remember what it was like when my kids went from 5th grade into middle school.
And I'm in the thick of it right now.
And you're in the middle of it.
Have a 6th grader next year.
Yeah, so it's a thing. And then the transition from middle school into high school, it's a lot. Yeah. We've got some amazing counselors here to help us
We
work
have
through
two
that.
of our phenomenal school counselors.
Yeah.
We have Alison Terrill. She's Lowell Scott Middle School counselor.
Yeah.
And then Brigitte O'Brien, she's at Mountain View High School. And so they just really give us a great perspective in this conversation. And I think a lot for parents to think about and know. Yeah,
and they've been doing this for a long time. So we're so excited that you are here to be a part of the conversation. Check it out.
All right, we are speaking with Alison Terrill and Brigitte O'Brien, two of our phenomenal school counselors here in West Ada.
Yeah.
Alison, you're at Lowell Scott, and Brigitte, you're at Mountain View. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background and kind of when you came to West Ada and all that kind of fun stuff, Alison?
Well, I moved here in 1990, many moons ago, and had graduated from Chico State and came up and wasn't real sure what direction I wanted to go. And when I was working at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I was a case manager for them. And one day I went to Frontier Elementary School, and I met an amazing woman named Cindy Fuller, who I always say changed my life because it was the closest thing to an epiphany I've ever had. And I was like, this is what I need to do. And then I went to Boise State, got my master's degree, and I've worked in West Ada ever since.
18 years with middle schoolers. Bless you. Oh. And I love middle schoolers.
Yeah,
I shouldn't even be
so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Brigitte, I mean, for you, 13 years at Mountain View. Give us your background. Yeah.
Yes. I also came from Chico State. And
in full disclosure, so did I. So we just had a little off podcast conversation about that.
That was amazing.
Very amazing.
Yeah. So, I did 5 years in Northern California. It's right outside of Chico. As a school counselor and one school counselor for the whole district. It's a very small, tiny agricultural community where, so you were working in elementary, middle, high school. And then we moved here because family was here in 2012, and I was picked up at Mountain View High School, and I've stayed there since because I love it. So
that's awesome. And that was like, 13 years?
Yeah, and we're about 13 years.
Yeah,
there.
that's awesome.
That's really cool. Well, it's funny. Katie and I were talking earlier today. Like it can be so confusing is the wrong word, but what exactly do counselors do? Because it's academic, it's all the things. I mean, can you 30,000 foot view, Alison? Would you mind just kind of giving us what's a counselor do? What's your day to day? I'm sure no 2 days are the same.
And it may be different. Right. So like from middle school to high school. So I'm curious about that.
100%.
So, this is probably true for both of us too. So what I do in September is not at all what I do in March, for example. So
sure.
Yeah. So depending on the time of year, like right now we just started a new semester, so there's schedules, there's lots of making sure kids are in the right classes and changing levels and that kind of thing. We're looking at iReady scores, and we're making sure that they're getting the math intervention they need, the English intervention they need, all of those kinds of things. And then with new kids coming in, we're making sure that they're also placed appropriately. And then who knows where we go from there.
Sure.
At our school, we are really committed to being in front of as many kids as possible. So our goal is every quarter, every student, every grade level, we do a presentation of some kind. And it could be, it could be registration, it could be conflict resolution. It just depends. And so that's our goal as well. So we'll set that up. We'll see kids individually that might be struggling with school or home or whatever, friends, usually middle school. It's all about those friendships. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then we also offer support groups as well. So
That's really
busy.
cool.
So it seems to me like it's kind of like three buckets. You help with testing, you help with kind of that social, emotional, mental health component, and academic.
Right.
That's a lot. That's a lot of hats
Those are
to wear.
Those are three pretty big buckets. Yeah.
Where our goal is to get them ready for high school.
Yeah.
So we think about what are the skills they need in high school in order to be successful. And so we kind of work it backward and making sure that they're getting those skills.
Yeah, and I think like the role of that comprehensive counselor, you're hitting that social emotional, the academic side of things, college and career, and there's just so much that happens in your day to day. Every single day is different, and I think that that's why a lot of times we enjoy our job, because we may have a list of things on our to-do list and we get in there and then the next thing is walking through your door that, is definitely takes you by surprise, but it can just vary so much working with a kid who's at risk to the next student's like, I need a scholarship application completed. And you're like, okay. So, we're working with making sure they're hitting their graduation requirements, helping them when they're having a really rough day and they're upset and they're in tears. So it's definitely just rolling with what's in front of you. But it keeps it interesting. So
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
No 2 days are the same, I'm sure.
No, never.
Well, one of the big reasons why we really wanted to jump in and do this podcast with you all, which thank you for being here, but just like the course selection, like making that jump from 5th grade into middle school, or obviously then jumping into high school. Can we talk about course selection a little bit? I mean, I guess maybe Alison, starting with you, trying to help students and parents go from 5th grade to middle school.
Yeah.
How big of a deal is that?
So what we try to do is we try to kind of baby step them from so for example, from 5th grade going to 6th grade, we recognize this is probably say the biggest change they're going to have, because even from middle to high school, like the day is similar in terms of, changing classes and lunch and lockers and all that stuff. So 5th to 6th is huge. Like, it's
I remember my son going, I'm never going to be able to open my locker.
Yeah.
all the things. Yeah.
The joke is first day is locker and pizza. Those seem to be the two major stressors of the day.
Sure.
So in 6th grade, they just choose music, right? Everything else is kind of selected for them. They do have some options in terms of like if they want to do advanced English classes, advanced math classes, but for the most part, it's English, math, science, the usual.
Right.
And then they get to choose their music, so they can do general music, which is like learning about music theory, and they get to make their own instruments and things like that. To orchestra, for example, depending on what instrument they play. So that's the only class they actually choose.
Okay.
And then in 7th grade, then they get to choose an elective, right? And there's one in the fall, one in the spring. And then in 8th grade, they get to choose 4 electives. So it's like we just kind of get them to the point where they're ready then to choose in high school.
Okay, actually, you're already calming my nerves, because I have my older boy stayed in Galileo through 8th grade.
Oh,
and so
sure.
we're going to have a 6th grader next year. And now he's already asking me, like, what electives? What do I choose? And I'm like, buddy, I don't know. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But the fact that we only choose
That's
music,
it.
thank you. I can go home and have a great dinner table discussion.
Good.
like, let's start planning.
Yeah.
At the high school level, a lot of things are similar. It's just that now we're looking at meeting high school graduation requirements. So there's definitely things that we're helping the students walk through when they're choosing their classes. Obviously, with their core classes, like the required English, math, science, histories, we make sure and ensure that they are selecting some. They don't get to just take a whole day of, really fun electives. That would be awesome. But we do want to make sure they're taking the right classes. And then in high school, that freshman year, they're getting to choose a lot of different electives to start exploring what programs or interests they might have. And that's such a really cool thing. And our district is really awesome about the large amount of opportunities and how much tons of choice. So they can really get involved, hopefully, or find some type of passion that they love, or that they can really hold on to.
Well, do you see kids that are kind of overwhelmed though? I mean, because all the choice is awesome, but can it be overwhelming? What do you see there?
That's a great question. I see a lot of students sometimes have preconceived notions of what they think they're going to love or what they don't love. And so we really try and work with kids to encourage them, explore these things now in high school. Choose something, maybe it lies outside of your normal comfort zone, because maybe it's going to be something that you actually really gravitate towards, that you can see yourself going into a career field down the road. Right. So back to the course selection process, though, like we're working with those students through their classrooms, through presentations, giving them the worksheets and all that information and all the resources to bring home, work with parents, say, this is what I want to take. And then we come back and we also walk them through like putting their selections into the computer program that is our scheduling program.
Okay.
So
well, and then something else that we do as a district that's kind of a little bit of a shift this year from years past is we're having course selection nights. So, they're happening at all of our high schools on various dates. None of them are conflicting dates, you know, and so you can really go and get that help.
Yeah, I think that's the goal of it, right? We want parents to be involved with helping their students make informed decisions and utilizing the resources like the course description book. Sometimes I'm just like, have you referenced that? Have you read that? Because it just describes what these elective classes are that they might not be sure about. It can just really give a lot of information to those parents. It's a great starting point, I guess that's what I say. And then, the course selection worksheets, they can select, they'll be guided as to what's available to them on that grade level. But that night's going to be full of information, advanced opportunity information, and graduation requirements, and just
CTE,
trying,
all the options.
Yeah. Just break it down and try and make it.
And even at our level, we're getting ready to go to the elementary schools in a couple weeks, and we'll go and we'll meet with all the fifth graders, and we have a PowerPoint and talk to them about, what to expect and ask, answer questions that they have. And so just trying to ease their fears a little bit too.
Well, and this might be, sorry to interrupt you. I apologize, Alison, but this might be too granular, but the fifth graders will get a packet and kind of go through that. Can you describe that? What does that look like? And how is that an asset for them and for the parents?
So we want them to really start to get comfortable with things like Power School and class choice, right?
Okay,
and once they know that, they'll use it the rest of their academic years. So the packet is just instructions on how to access class choice, because they actually will register for those music classes through class choice.
Okay.
And then we also want them, of course, to update their forms, their medical forms, their contact forms on Power School, because in elementary, Power School really isn't utilized, but in middle school and high school, it's huge. We use it all the time, and we encourage kids to. It's a great way to check grades. It's a great way to know what assignments are missing, just to kind of track all of that. So we really want them to start, getting comfortable with it.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to ask, because we might have Galileo parents listening who are choosing to go, and for myself.
Right.
So my son's a fifth grader. Is there a way, do I reach out to the Eagle Middle School counselor? Because I don't think they would come to Galileo, since Galileo has their own middle school.
Yes, I would recommend
reach
out to the Eagle counselor. Yep, and just see what they recommend.
Options for looking
do.
at all that stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Because like the PowerPoint we showed at the elementary school, we have it posted on our website as soon as we're done. So there's resources there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, and we were chatting before we started recording, Brigitte, but like sometimes friends end up going, some go to Meridian, some go to Mountain View, whatever. Yeah. There's a transfer process. Can you kind of talk about a little bit how that process works and what that looks like in West Ada?
Yeah. So sometimes our feeder schools are like when we go to the 8th graders and we're helping them choose their courses for high school. Some students are slated to go to Mountain View, and some are slated to go to Meridian High, and that's based on where your family lives and what address we have in Power School, and so that's kind of determines which high school you go to. And so if a student were transferring at schools or wanting to go to the different school, I think there is a process in district transfer request, and that usually starts with getting approval from your home school, which then gets sent to the receiving principal for approval. And then if it is, then you're notified that you would be allowed to go to that.
In district transfer,
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So it's a process.
Yeah.
It is a process. Sure. Yep. But we help you through that if that's what it comes to be.
Do kids generally know? I would think families would kind of generally know which high school they're headed to. I'm not sure at which level are there kids that are surprised? Like, oh no, I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Do you
Sometimes
find that? I don't find. Usually they're
dialed.
Yeah.
They know.
they usually do. Sometimes we get questions though. They're like, I should have gotten the Mountain View packet. How
Why
come
didn't
I'm
I?
not?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because they have an old address in Power School. And so that's another reason why, updating that demographic, that address and all that stuff is super important, because then we can make sure that you're headed the right direction.
Accurate information.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, there's so many people involved in the process, and there's a lot of moving parts. Can you? Okay, let me ask dumb questions. What does the registrar? What role do they play in terms of making all this happen?
A very important one.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So our registrar, and this is true for probably all middle school registrars, so they really are the ones that create the packets, make sure that the schools, the students are getting what they need to be ready for, and as counselors, I just go in and grab my stack and off I go. And, she's making sure that that class choice is ready, is open, is correct, because we don't want students to go on there and then there's classes that they really shouldn't be, because they're sixth graders and it's an eighth grade class or whatever.
Right.
So those kinds of things. And then once those packets come back completed, then she inputs every single one of them. I mean, it's a big job. And so one of the things that we really stress too, not so much fifth grade to sixth grade, but as they get older, is the importance of alternates, making sure that when you list your electives, you're also adding what your alternates would be too. Because sometimes, especially, and maybe you can speak to this, freshmen may not get everything that they want because, the priority will go to seniors.
Yeah.
So it's important to have your backup, in
Have
there as well.
Have a backup plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, the role of the registrar is very important. At the high school level, the counselors and the administration is really working on those class choice screens, making sure the right classes are available for students to pick when they're in that scheduling program. And so we then... Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I've been there, done that.
You're all good.
Well, so let me ask you this. If a registrar has, if there's a problem, a parent has a problem, and there's somebody, who's the first person to go, okay, here's this issue. Do they go to the registrar? Do they go to the counselor? What does that look like?
Yeah, I would have them contact their school counselor at the high school level. We're the ones fixing any of those type of requests for students. If they've not signed up for enough classes or maybe an incomplete sign up, we're calling that student down and working with them to make sure that they have a fully requested schedule for the following year.
West Ada is proud to partner with Purposity, a platform that connects community members to the specific needs of our students and families. Through Purposity, you can make a direct impact by fulfilling essential needs like clothing, school supplies, and hygiene items. Join us in spreading kindness and making a lasting impact by signing up at purposity.com. You'll find the link in today's show notes.
Well, Brigitte, you mentioned how students can kind of adjust if they have an issue with their schedule or something that needs to be fixed. And as a control freak mom, I've been really I know, right? I've been really impressed with the growth I've seen in my son, who's now a junior, and he just goes in and pops in and talks to his counselor. Like, I have no control, I have no idea what's going on. He handles it all. Like, if there's an issue, if he has a question about a class he wants to take, and he's not necessarily like a super go-getter kid, but like he's just learned this from their culture. So how are students assigned to like different counselors? Because he apparently has a great relationship with his.
That's so awesome. Because what growth, right? That's the goal. You want your students to start taking ownership and asking the questions and not just relying on mom and dad to do it for you. So that's amazing. Good job, mom. At our school, our students are assigned to their counselors by their last name. So we have like 6 academic counselors, and we all have a section of the alphabet. And so that's how we do it. I know they do it a little bit different at the middle schools.
I'm going to pause for a second because I know Mountain View is like our largest enrollment school.
Yeah.
So how many students are assigned under your purview?
So we're all around 450. We have
holy moly
around 2,500 students at school right now.
And thus your day gets blown up, as you were talking about earlier, because you got 450 kids. Yeah.
We also have a full-time and a part-time college and career counselor, which really helps out because they are so dedicated and they're awesome. Working to really help those students take the following leap, right? You talk about your student now feeling comfortable to ask those questions, like, yes, because very soon they're going to be off on their own doing their own thing.
Right.
Yep. And then we also have a part-time drug prevention counselor. So we just feel like those roles are just so important, and we're so lucky to have them.
Gosh, it really does run the gamut. There's so many different things to cover.
Yeah.
That's
well, we started
cool.
big there. What about at Lowell Scott?
Lowell Scott. So we typically, most middle schools will typically go by grade level. So currently, we have 2 full-time counselors at Lowell Scott. I am the 8th grade counselor, and then I share 7th grade with my counseling partner. She's the 6th grade counselor, and then shares the other half of the alphabet.
That's probably works well though to kind of hand them off though. Is that
yes?
Is that the idea?
Yep. And the idea is we stay with them the 3 years, and so then my 8th graders will leave, and then I will go back to 6th grade.
Oh, so they
I'm
get to know
perpetually
you.
You like
in
loop
middle
with them.
school. I loop with them. Yeah,
That's
so they
great.
So they have the same counselor all 3 years, and I mean it's the same for them as well. But
we keep them for all 4 years, and we're getting them, to graduation. And what's kind of a really neat factor too is we get to work with families, because a lot of times we'll have the older siblings, and then we have here's the freshman sibling. You're like, oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah.
So there's already a relationship established. Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's really in relationships with those parents oftentimes too, and yeah.
We talked about how many hats you have to wear. What is your preparation look like? Like, what is the education behind becoming a school counselor?
You do have to have a master's degree, and my master's degree was in educational counseling. It was focused on being a school counselor.
Okay.
And then you have to have your credential through the state for PPS credential, or Pupil Personnel Services.
Okay.
And some of us are licensed professional counselors, but you're not required to do that to be a school counselor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like maybe, I don't know, maybe you could see clients on the side or something.
And some do. Yeah, some people do, or in retirement, they might do that, or
Well, we already kind of talked about, Katie's son taking initiative and all. But so those, for the parents out there who are listening, and they want to initiate a meeting with y'all, Alison, how do they do that? What's that look like?
Call me, email me, whatever works. As all of our information's on the website, and just we'll make an appointment and have them come in and have that conversation and see what's needed. And sometimes that's a 504 meeting. Sometimes that's just a walk through the school to see where the classes are. And, we give them a schedule and a map, and, and they can kind of do it on their own, or they can, or we can guide them as well. So there's lots of options that way.
Something I just love though about getting to do this with Ken and speak to all of our amazing colleagues is it's really reinforced that they're just additional caring adults, and we're a team. I love how the district partners with us parents so that we can all support our kids and help them develop the best they can, get the best education, and are accessible. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and talk to your school counselors and teachers.
Our contact information is on the website.
Yeah,
I love when you say that. Yeah.
One thing that I always tell, especially my nervous parents with coming in, is for the most part, the majority of adults at the school are parents, right? And so they're not going to let your kiddo struggle. No, it's just not in our gene pool. It's like, nope. What can we do to help? And I tell, especially again, the 6th graders who lockers are stressful.
It's a thing.
Most of us have little keys that we wear around our necks that we can pop open those lockers really quickly if it's just not the day for them to figure it out.
Totally.
But within a couple weeks, they have it.
They got it.
Got it mastered.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Well, with that safe and encouraging bucket, that we talked about a little bit. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to learn if they're stressed, or if they're dealing with all kinds of stuff. I don't know, Brigitte, from your perspective, how the safe and encouraging, and Mountain View is huge. Both my kids went to Mountain View. Yeah. It's a big deal. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming. How do you work that into your day? Or what does that look like?
No, I think it's such an area of focus, right? We're really trying to build those relationships and get to know the kids as best we can. We love to start off our year meeting all of our freshmen. So we will call them down one-to-one, and we have these 5-minute conversations.
So just like a one-on-one thing with them. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And
here's my face. Here's who I am.
Exactly. This is how you reach me. You need to see me. You can email me. You can come to the counseling office, put in a pass to see me. These are the things that oftentimes we're working with kids with. So, to just kind of normalize that we're here to ask those questions.
Right.
If you need to vent or cry, you can come in and do that as well. If you have questions about school, academic, we just kind of go over our role with them so they know who we are. And that just kind of helps set the tone and makes us more accessible to them so they know who we are. And then we just try and continue that. We're meeting with them each year for various different reasons. And we just continue to build those relationships. And then we see a lot of students during scheduling and schedule change and
new semester.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And well, like middle school is such a, everyone knows like middle school is a hard time.
rough.
It's right. Like,
there's a lot going on.
The
There's a
growth,
lot going
all
on.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, I assume there's curriculum or something to help kids like work on their self-esteem and their confidence and things like that. What does that kind of look like in your day to day?
So we kind of the way we get in front of kids and make sure they know who we are and how to find us is we'll go into their classrooms often. And we currently we go into, like, for example, for 6th grade, we go into their music classes and we do a lesson, and it could be on, friendship building. It could be on how to recognize who the trusted adults are that you can go to. And our music teachers coined those lessons Human 101. And I loved it. And that's what we call them now. We do our Human 101 lessons. It's just like what, kind of those soft skills of what you need to, to be successful and to make friends and to fit in and where to go if you need help. And I know it's working because I had just today, I had a student who I have never encountered before, and she learned how to sign up to see me, and in she came, and we had a great chat. And so I know it's a really important thing. It's the kids that maybe are nervous to approach you in the hallway and say, and some are not. Some are very, very comfortable coming up and, I need you right now, or they'll scream your name down the hallway or whatever. But not, not there are shy ones that are nervous ones. It's nice that they have another outlet, for that. But bottom line, we are student advocates. Like we are their voice. We are, and again, just today, I had a student who was struggling with a math assignment and with the math teacher. Okay. And she and I went in and sat down with the teacher, who was lovely and willing to give up her prep period to help. And, it was great. Yeah. And
when you're teaching them to self-advocate,
yes,
I mean, that's huge.
What this looks like and how to do it. But then we're there, we're not too far away, helping them with that, encouraging them to do that.
I don't know, this may not be fair, but I think that it's, at least in my experience, middle schoolers are sometimes better at like opening up a little bit.
Yes, they're
Brigitte,
not as,
is that fair? I mean, I would think that self-perception stuff and real issues can be harder in high school. Is that a fair assessment, or what do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely come into play. I imagine middle school, it's really ramping up as well. Just the uncertainty and how their worlds are just really revolved around their social dynamic and all the friends. And I work with a lot of students who oftentimes are finding friend changes in 9th grade, and you may have experienced this, but where, people do change, or maybe they're like, well, maybe this isn't such a healthy group of friends, and so we're going to go a different way. And so there can be a lot of that shifting, which can cause some turmoil. But what we try and do then too is, when it comes to us, is like empower them of like, what a great choice you did make. And, like you should be proud of who you are hanging out with and, who you're involving yourself with, and just trying to ramp up and encourage them and be their cheerleader on the sideline.
That's really cool.
Yeah. That's, I would imagine it's probably hard because you take in a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some self-care that as trained counselors, like you, right? There's some things you've got to be able to do so that you can let some of that go that you're experiencing on the day-to-day.
Definitely a thing, self-care. We teach that a lot in our world. But I would also just say with humor, and I'm so lucky to work with so many colleagues and counselors who can vent, or it's not even venting, but we can just laugh and be like, oh my gosh, and it's just having that camaraderie. So it's super nice to have people in the trenches with you that are also there to help kids, and also know what you're going through.
Right. To let off some steam, but also collaborate with, like, hey, I'm dealing with a sticky situation.
Absolutely.
How would you handle this? Or
we collaborate all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
It's huge.
Mm-hmm. It's very important. Yeah.
Well, and making positive choices. I mean, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, and let me just say this: I'm not blowing sunshine at you, but as a parent, I love having adults, whether it's counselors, coaches, teachers, who are reinforcing what I'm trying to tell them at home. Right. Making positive choices, Alison. I mean, how much can you do there? I would assume that's something you want to do. How hard is it to do that? to help kids
make good
help
choices.
them learn how to make positive choices. I guess is the question.
I believe that they know at their core right and wrong, good or bad, and so I really just try to be that listening ear and reflect back, like, so what you're telling me is, and they go, you know,
is that what I said?
Is that what I said? Because and so really it's just that, and then just that unconditional positive regard, like, you know what, no, even if this is the worst day and you're just really having a moment, you are safe here, you are welcome here, you know, we're gonna be okay.
The no judgment zone.
No judgment, and I've had bad days too, and
this just in, it happens to all of us, right?
This too shall pass,
right.
And that kind of stuff. So just trying to remind them that they're good, they're in the right place, and we'll get them through whatever they're going through.
Now, if they have to have kind of a let's say there's a student who's struggling, maybe with behaviors or something like that. Is it a team collaborative effort? Do you work with the administration and that kind of thing to kind of help the students set a plan for growth and improvement?
And the parents as well.
And the parents.
Yeah, parents are a huge, very important part of that team. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, we have teachers, we have parents, we have, and the students, of course, and sometimes, the administrators. I mean, we all have a piece of that we get together and try to be really transparent and just see what we can do to support that student.
The West Ada Education Foundation's Thank a Teacher program is a great way to support and express gratitude for your child's teacher.
El programa Agradezca a un Maestro de la Fundación para la Educación de West Ada es una excelente manera de apoyar y expresar gratitud por el maestro de su hijo.
All proceeds directly benefit the teacher or program designated at the time of donation.
Todos los ingresos beneficiarán directamente al maestro o al programa designado en el momento de la donación.
You can find a link in the episode description to Thank a Teacher.
Puedes encontrar un enlace en las notas del programa del podcast para hacer una donación.
So Brigitte, with high school, I would imagine that, maybe supporting students who are having behavior issues might look a little different because expectations are probably a little different. How does that look in the high school setting?
Yeah, I think that, like Alison, we're working with the team, again, of parents and teachers and administration. And it's just really trying to understand that student, sometimes looking at why do we think that behavior is occurring and what's the purpose of it, because then that way we can try and make a plan to intervene and maybe stop the behavior ahead of time.
Right. Maybe give them some tools too. Yeah. Like I would imagine they probably are lacking some tools in their toolbox to navigate situations.
Sure. Yeah. Like for instance, we have students sometimes who are avoiding class, right? And so they're doing anything and everything to, maybe get called out of class or visiting somewhere where they're not supposed to be. And so, when we can identify that, then maybe we can put something into place ahead of time to say like, hey, I'm going to call you in. We're going to have a little visit and then back to class you are. And so it's just trying to work and figure out those areas that we need to support students in.
So at the high school level, like kind of on the flip side of that, maybe they're not needing to work with the team because they're having a behavior issue or something, but maybe they're really needing to access you, or like needing a referral to speak to the counselor. What does that all look like? Like how would a student come to you as needed?
We tell our students they can come down into our counseling office and we have little slips that they can fill out requesting to see their counselor. Okay. And on it describes the, the areas of confidentiality of the times that this remains between us, but if you disclose or we are talking about some of these items, then we do have to break confidentiality, involve a safe person to help support you. So they kind of know that up front. And then we will send a pass for them to their class. They come down and we visit and see what's going on
there.
Yep. And then depending on what is going on, if it's, one of those areas where we do need to reach out and talk with parents or school administrators or things like that, we let them know. But we really try and engage the parents when we can to work together to support them, because a lot of those students do so much better when they have that open communication with their parents and the school.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It seems like a lot. We have phenomenal SROs at our schools, and it seems like they build really good relationships with kids. And so I wonder, does it happen that a student might reveal something to an SRO and they would come to you and maybe be like, hey, I think we need to XYZ with this kid?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all mandated reporters. And so if a teacher has a concern, if an SRO, whoever it is, they will often come to us. I mean, SROs and counselors have very different roles, but we work together a lot to make sure that the students are safe.
Well, what if something's going on? And I'm not even sure how to ask this question, but what if something's going on that kind of goes beyond the scope of school counseling and you need to refer them to someone else? I mean, Alison, you're nodding your head. What does that look like? How does that process kind of work?
So it is an important distinction that we're not therapists, right?
Sure,
and so we are not going to have weekly sessions with students. We'll do, like, I'll do frequent check-ins with students, but those are not therapy sessions. Those are, I always say we're like the triage department of a hospital. We're there to bandage them up and get them back to class as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
And so in that case, let's say there's a student that really needs more than I can offer.
Sure.
Then I'm going to talk to the parents about some outside counseling referrals. And we are really fortunate this year. We actually have a therapist coming to the school.
Oh, wow. Oh,
which
very
has been
cool.
a game changer. It has been so wonderful. So that kids don't have to get pulled out of school for 2 hours, or, by the time they get there and have their session and come back. And we have a designated spot for them, and they go and they meet with their therapist, and then they go back to class. So, I mean, it's
that's cool.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
I can't stress this enough to parents listening that school personnel are not there to get you in trouble.
Right.
Everyone just wants to support and help and do what's best for your kids and for your family. Absolutely. And so don't be afraid. I don't know, just maybe don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help, because there are a lot of resources to help in the district.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think shame gets in the way. I mean, as human beings, I think we let shame get in the way, and parents are sometimes, I shouldn't say this, but I think parents are sometimes worse than the kids. I think the kids can kind of work through some things better. Anyway, I'm going off on a diatribe. I should not do that.
That's real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about SROs. But Brigitte, like social workers, how do you work with social workers? We've done a podcast with some of our social worker friends as well. I assume that relationship is kind of a partnership as well. Is that fair?
Yes, absolutely. Aren't they amazing?
Yeah, they are completely amazing. Yes.
They do such a great job of working with our students that are McKinney-Vento eligible. They meet our homeless criteria, and so they are really connecting with those families and the students, at least usually it's like once a week, checking in, what do you need at your home? What can we provide you? So, we're distributing hygiene bags or household goods, like cleaning supplies, or sometimes there's a diaper drive going on.
Right.
So there's just so many different things that these social workers link our families up to with outside agencies to wrap around families and support our kids, because we want them attending, right? And we want them learning. And so can we take away any barriers? Can we, make this better so that they're here?
Yeah.
And a huge shout out to like community agencies like the Meridian Food Bank, for example. They provide weekends food backpacks to all of, whatever.
They're a huge partner.
Students that need it. Yeah. I mean, it's wonderful to see those kids get that bag of food that may be it for them for the weekend. So, I mean, it's really important that we have that resource.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, and this is kind of shifting gears big time, but you talked about how they come in at the first of the year to meet with you one-on-one. Individual counseling versus like group counseling. What does that look like, Alison, in your world?
So we run anywhere from 5 to 6 groups per semester, and those could be friendship skills, social skills. We have one that's very popular, and it is executive functioning. So it is organization. These binders walk by and they're ready to explode, and I'm just like, give that to me. Let me organize it.
Talk about a soft skill that you need, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You might have to come back and teach that again at like 25 when their brains form.
I know. I know. So that's a group that's very, very popular.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so we just, we typically will put kids in groups, and it's something, of course, that we get parent permission for.
Oh, of course. Sure.
But
sure.
we do it according to kind of issue. So whatever the issue is, we want to make sure that we're at friendship skills, social skills. Sometimes we do a girls group and a boys group because they have different.
100%. And different ways of thinking.
Different ways of thinking.
Is there a hygiene group?
There should be. There should be. That's the nurse's job.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about how I was in junior high.
I can remind you.
Yeah, it's not. It was not pretty. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's typically how that works. Yeah.
Oh, it's just kind of amazing to me how much you all, it runs the gambit. I mean, it seems like you all do a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. Are there different groups at the high school level, Brigitte? I mean,
yeah, we have tried to run groups. I think some of the barriers or things that we've run into are like student interest, not wanting to miss class. Because it would end up rotating through their schedule. And so they may not want to miss math or, so sometimes just finding enough students to run a group can actually be challenging. But we try and get into classrooms.
Right.
We do a lot of presentations in the classroom setting.
I'm sure that works great.
Yeah. Now, do you have, what is your role with maybe some of our special education services or maybe our students with disabilities? How do you have a role in their educational, adventure in school?
Absolutely. Yeah. So counselors typically are in charge of the 504 accommodation plans that are given, and that is students that have a disability that need, for example, the one that seems to come up a lot is ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
And they need accommodations in order to level the playing field so that they have the same access to the educational environment that students that don't have that disability. Mm-hmm. And so counselors often are the case managers for that. So we'll be in charge of scheduling the meeting, talking to teachers, getting everybody together, parents, students, and really looking to see what it is that student needs. And then, at least at my school, IEPs, we're also part of those. It kind of depends. Like we don't run those.
Can you define IEP real quick?
Yeah, individualized education plan.
Right.
So someone that may be needing, let's say they're an 8th grader and they might need like a 6th grade curriculum, for example. That's just, there's a million examples.
Sure.
But that's just one of them.
Sure.
We might be there to help with suggesting some, like a schedule option to see what else that family might need. Mm. We don't oversee that plan. They have case managers that do that are typically special education teachers. So we're more of a
advisory or a collaborator.
A collaborator. Yep, makes absolutely.
Sense. Yeah. Well, and we touched really briefly on the drug prevention counseling side of things. That's another obviously hugely important thing. Brigitte, I mean, can you describe that for us? I mean,
well, I haven't been in that role myself, but I know how valuable that is in the work that they're doing in the area of prevention.
Right.
And I'm sure that Alison can talk to the awesome stuff that they are seeing at the middle school, like resulting from the prevention lessons that they're teaching to the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah.
Yep. And in the high school, it's the same thing. We're trying to, or our drug prevention counselor is also trying, advertising the cessation groups that we're trying to run, awesome bulletin boards on the effects of different drugs, alcohol, vaping. Right. It's just so huge and it is so prevalent. We have to be focusing on that prevention in order to try, because students and people are getting addicted so early on. Mm-hmm.
All right. And with their unformed brains. And that's a thing. On the middle school side, what do you think, Alison? I mean,
well, it's interesting. A couple years ago, we started bringing in, so we would do our own drug prevention. And I actually was a high school drug prevention counselor. When you're, 24 years, you do everything. So what else haven't I done?
Been there, done that. Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because back in the day that, of course, vaping wasn't a thing. And so it's like, this is a whole new beast that's, come along. Anyway, but we now have drug prevention counselors that come to the middle school, and in 6th grade, they target the vaping lesson, and the violations have drastically decreased as a result of that. Mm-hmm.
That's great.
That
is very cool
amazing
to hear.
Yeah, it is really, really exciting. And because it's so scary, and they can become addicted so quickly. And so that's why it's just, the earlier the better that we start to talk to them about it. And
we have really phenomenal community partners like Central District Health and Meridian Anti-Drug Coalition and organizations like that I would imagine are very helpful in this.
Extremely so, yeah. Drug Free Idaho is another one that we use a lot. We do our Red Ribbon Week campaigns. And then, they absolutely provide materials for us, speakers for whatever. Right. They're just, I'll call and say, this is what I got. And they're like, okay,
we're going to work on this.
Because they're dedicated to it as well, and helping these kids make it to adulthood and not have, not be addicted. I mean, it's a difficult road
then
because
you're handcuffing yourself, and you don't even know that you're handcuffing yourself, especially when you're a kid.
You don't think about that. No. Gosh, well, we're kind of talking about heavy stuff. So, I mean,
sorry, heavy into the pool.
Why not go there? In the event that something a crisis happens at one of our schools, what role do you play? I know we have kind of a team, a district-wide team. What kind of role do you play in that process, and what does that look like?
Yeah. We definitely have a crisis team that goes to schools when an event happens to help support the students and the staff that can be affected. And they're there maybe because it also allows a little bit of degree of separation.
Because this something might happen to one of your students that you have a personal relationship, in which case you can't really be the professional in that setting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're not going to be probably in a condition to counsel other people. So what an important support role that is.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
And so some, counselors and school psychologists, social workers, they volunteer to be on this care team, which will go and support the other schools when something happens like that. And when something maybe isn't as major, but it's a crisis walking into your office, you are that point person, and you are working with that student until we can connect them with parents or, whatever thing needs to be connected, resource. And so, we're just sometimes like that front line, like Alison said, of just, we got you, you're safe, and we'll take care of you.
Yeah. Does it look the same in the middle school?
It's very similar. Yeah. That oftentimes, well, I can't remember her name. There's a wonderful, she's the author of Queen Bees and Wannabes. That's a wonderful book if you are a middle school parent. Anyway, but I went to a conference, a presentation she gave, and she said, God bless middle school counselors. Every day they show up. There's 15 kids, 15 kids lined out. 2 of them don't even know why they're there.
They're like, oh, that's what we're doing.
I just saw a line. I got in the line. I don't know.
But typically it'll be kids bringing their friends, who are crying or upset, and then they just bring them to us, and we're like, okay, thank you so much. Thanks for being a good friend and a good support, and we'll take it from here. But we have a similar thing with the it's not CARES team. What's the crisis team?
Oh, the crisis team.
That's a whole different thing. The crisis team. That they will come as well if there is any kind of incident or something where they can help out.
Gosh, well, with 40,000 students in our district, there's gonna be stuff. There just is, and I don't know. I just appreciate what you all do. We say it
that's what I'm thinking. Right? As a parent, I'm just so grateful. I would not. I can't imagine having my kids anywhere else because there's so many lovely people who pour into my kids and care about them and help shape and mold them in phenomenal ways, in very positive ways. So thank you for the work that you do.
Well, before we go, is there anything, we've talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything though that you're like, oh wait, Kim, before we turn off the microphone, anything that we haven't talked about that you all want to address, or did we get it?
I think, it's good.
I think it's great.
Yeah. I can't think of it. It's, like you said, there's just so much to this job that it's really hard to kind of
condense it into a quick podcast.
But I think you guys did a great job. I think you asked great questions.
Just reach out to us if, if stuff comes up.
Every on our West Ada website, every school is listed.
Yes.
There's contact information for all the folks you need to. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Well, sincerely, thank you for what you do. It's so great to be able to chat with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Isn't it great that we've got counselors who have our backs as parents and how they work together? It's just they're amazing ladies.
They're amazing teammates, right? I feel like all of these folks that we get to work with who support and love our kids are just great teammates in helping us raise them. So.
It's very cool. Well, thank you so much. As always, thank you for being here. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Spotify, Google, Amazon. If you listen on iTunes, please rate us and leave a review. And as well, you can always go to, if you want to watch the video version, go to YouTube and search out West Ada. You can watch the podcast there as well. Today's question, and we really want to start a conversation for those of us who have been through this process, right, and those who are going through it now. What are some common challenges that students face when transitioning from middle school to high school, and what strategies can be used to help ease that transition? Because it's a thing, and we want to be helpful to you as parents out there.
Parents, you really are the expert on your kid. Yeah. And so if you have some tips or tricks on how you've helped maybe older students do the transition, let us know. We can help each other and share those ideas.
Absolutely. So comment on social media, or you can send us an email at communicate@westada.org. And to learn more about the podcast, go to westada.org/podcast. Some of our old episodes are there, and you can check those things out. And we've got another
great
cool
podcast coming up.
Yeah.
We put on a really robust college and career fair. So we're going to bring on one of our college and career counselors, Tammy Schneider. She's phenomenal.
Amazing.
She's at Renaissance High. We get to work with her quite a bit. And then we're bringing in Captain Tanner Cook, who I've had the pleasure of having great conversations with. And he is the company commander of Boise Army recruiting in the area. So he offers a great perspective on that kind of military option for after high school. So
it's going to be a lot of fun.
It'll be a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, thank you. As always, thank you for joining us. And we cannot wait until we get to see you next time. Thanks for listening.